social media is a wonderful thing, but can also be a really bad thing at the same time.
That voice you just heard was local educator, third grade teacher at Independence Elementary, Joshua King. OTC welcomes back Joshua King to the podcast. Josh is a third grade teacher at Independence Elementary and has been teaching for over 11 years. He went viral back in 2019 for his version of Truth Hurts by Lizzo that he sang to his students when they returned from summer vacation. He has since sang his rendition of Levitating by Dua Lipa and Fancy Like by Walker Hayes for his students. So it's good to have Joshua back in studio today. He actually came on over a year ago, and the discussion we had then was really focused around the pandemic and changes that were happening inside the school system. You know, everyone learning virtual, and so lots changed since then, but unfortunately, some of the things haven't changed, and we're still masking students. We're still dealing with the social distancing issues, and so we talked a little bit about that today. Very positive attitude. He, basically said like the kids are adapting well, and it's just all how you positively spin it for them and make those issues a non-issue. We talked a little bit about social media and devices and what that means for students. Talked a little bit about social emotional learning, which was a new discussion for me. I haven't heard that term before, and it was interesting to see what he's doing in his classroom to kind of help kids adapt who haven't been in social settings as they've been accustomed to prior to COVID. We talked a little bit about his TikTok. He's amassed over 70,000 followers, and sounds like he's got a good core group of teachers that kind of, I want to say a support group, but people who kind of bounce ideas back and forth, and if they're having a rough day in school, they kind of have a little community to go to and share some thoughts and ideas. And so I thought that was very positive. So anyway, he's just a delightful guy to be around, very positive, ton of energy, and I hope you enjoy the show.
Welcome back to the Our 2 Cents podcast, the show where your local professionals sit down with an array of guests to hear their story and impart some wisdom for both business and life-improving skills. This is your place to hear business and community leaders discuss relevant topics that matter to you.
And welcome back to the Our 2 Cents podcast. I'm your host today, Kyle Jones, and I'm here with Josh King. Buddy, how are you?
Hello. So good to be back. I'm doing great.
Well, not only that, I haven't seen you has it been since the podcast? I want to say it has.
Since the beginning?
No, since we did the podcast.
Last time, yeah. So almost probably about a year and a half.
I feel like I see you all the time with your social media stuff, so I kind of know what you're doing and how things are, but I haven't seen your face in a while, so.
No, it's been a little bit.
Well, how's life? How's everything going?
Things are good. Still in third grade, and...
You haven't graduated yet?
Haven't graduated yet. Hoping to get to fourth grade, but no, another year in third grade. Things are good, though. We'll get into that with school, but I think my big update, I got a puppy, got a new dog. That's been taking up a lot of my time.
Was it a poodle?
Golden Doodle.
Golden Doodle, that's right. And your first dog was the one that you
also
have?
Golden Doodle.
Also Golden Doodle,
yeah.
Okay. So we have a, what do they call them? It's a standard poodle and a Cocker Spaniel. So standard Cocker Spaniel, what do they call those?
Oh my gosh, I don't know.
I don't even know what kind of dog I have. She's the greatest dog in the world, but what's that? Cockerdoodle.
Cockerdoodle.
Yeah. It's a Cocker Spaniel and a standard poodle.
So every morning, does your dog go cockerdoodle-doo?
She does not.
No.
It would be cool if she did.
Disappointing.
But she's a great dog. I love those breeds with the doodles and
yes.
Cocker Spaniel. It's she's great.
It's that non-shedding for me.
Yes.
Yeah.
The hyperallergenic.
Yes.
Yeah. And is yours girls or boys?
One girl, one boy.
Okay. Any marking issues or?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
We had two male dogs our whole married life together, Cicely and I, and we loved them, but the difficulty of them marking things in the house and territory, it was like, okay, I need girls in my life.
So you got them.
And I got them in spade. Yeah. All right. So tell us a little bit what's going on in school these days. I know a lot's changed. I think last time we had you on the podcast, it was kind of like the start of the pandemic, basically.
Yes.
And like you guys were making some real serious adjustments. And I presume you've had a chance to hopefully learn from the last year and a half. And tell us a little bit what's going on in the classroom and what adjustments you made further since that time we last spoke.
100%. It's been a pretty big journey. So last time we talked, it was beginning of 2020 school year. So we had just ended the year virtual. Everything was virtual. Didn't really get to see our students. We started the school year in 2020 also virtual, which was hard. It was tricky to navigate, but we got through it. In my district, we came back in about October, November, face-to-face. Then December happened and we got shut down again and we went virtual. So it was kind of a roller coaster last year of up and downs, highs and lows. But all the teachers that I know, they kind of got through it and they figured it out. What worked for them, what worked for their students. Was it easy? No. Is it what we thought we were going to get into? No. But what's really cool, and I've been looking into this a little bit, those teachers that got hired a year or two ago, it's really neat hearing their stories because this is all they know.
Right.
So kudos to them because they're going to get through this and things are going to get back to like quote unquote normal.
Right.
And they're going to think it's a breeze because they've already been doing the hardest part. I don't know. And it's kind of seeing those silver linings of how we got through it, how we came together, how we worked together, which is kind of cool with all sorts of different schools, all sorts of different teachers. But this year alone has been really cool. We started the beginning of the school year back in person with our students, whole new class. And we still have the mask guidelines. But for me and for most kids, they actually do pretty well with that. They keep their masks on all day. You might have to remind them to put it over their nose, but that's really the only change. Like we're in class, I'm teaching face-to-face, and it's so good to have them back face-to-face.
Yeah, I'm sure we're going to get into both those hot button issues. But so now I'm going to share with, as a parent, right? Yes. I'm not an educator. I'm not in the classroom.
Yeah.
And reason I want to share is because I want to get your input on this. And I think I know probably where you stand on it. But third grade, those are some very formidable years. And so from my perspective, it seems like it would be much harder to do the Zoom or the remote learning for that age group, maybe kinder, first, second, third, than it would be for maybe a fourth, fifth, sixth, or seventh grader who has already have years of schooling under their belt. They've already had that social interaction. They kind of understand how the game's played. And so they can probably adapt a little better to that than the youngers. What do you think about that? Would you agree or disagree?
Oh, 100%. And even so that first year when we were virtual, maybe a little bit easier because at least the kids knew each other for the most part. 2020, when we started virtual, you don't always know who's in your class. So that first day when we started virtual, that was really different because you kind of had to have those introductions, but virtually.
Right.
But I get what you're saying because, the younger kids, their attention span on a device. Now, I'm not talking about like an iPhone or an iPad playing a game because they can do that all day.
All day.
But that attention span of getting instruction, doing work on a screen, that's going to be hard for them, especially if they have to be muted because it's not like they can just burst out in whatever they want to say. I mean, they can push the unmute button and that's always a good time.
Right.
But on the other side of the spectrum, those older kids, especially your fifth, sixth graders, it was hard for them too because as you get older, you do get a little more social and you want to be around your friends. And so being virtual, there were a lot of teachers I heard their screens were black and a lot of the kids didn't want to show their face and they didn't want to be present. And so that was different too. I know that was challenging. I think all across the board, you have your challenges in each grade level, but don't put me on a kindergarten Zoom. I don't know if I could do that. Like the kindergarten Zoom, that was the wild one.
Yeah. Well, so Sadie, our youngest, that was her. And I don't know how Cicely did, honestly. I mean, maybe she was drinking at 10 in the morning. I don't know. If she was, I'm not going to judge her. But
hey, cheers to that.
Right. The other thing you brought up on, and I want to kind of talk about this a little bit because we're starting to see things change a little bit, at least with respect to different states in this country and as mandates are kind of changing a little bit. What I haven't heard yet is, at least locally, which is really surprising me, and maybe it's being discussed. I'm just not involved like you are, but when are we going to kind of taper away from these mask mandates for the kids on campus?
Great question. I know yesterday, I think it was New Jersey, Delaware. There were two other states that are talking about getting rid of the mask mandates, I believe at the end of the month. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's in our future. I know Monday in California, they're saying no more indoor mask mandates. So I don't know if that's even on the table right now, but I guess I could see it happening, but I haven't heard anything coming up about it.
They haven't consulted you about that?
They have not come to me. I don't get to make the decisions.
Well, the reason why I ask is, like I said, I'm not involved in what's going on behind the scenes with the school district, but if you're ending indoor mask mandates, well, then aren't classrooms indoor? Like, are they distinguishing between the two? And that's what I was wondering if you had some insight on as to why.
You would think so, but even before that indoor mask mandate came in like November of this last year, we've still had to be, anytime we were indoor with the students, I think because there's so many students, I don't know if it's because the age gap or you have your older teachers. I'm not 100% on the why right now, but we're doing it. And like I said, the kids, for the most part, are not complaining. I give them mask breaks. We're outside. We have snacks. I'll take them outside on a walk. So they're not indoor for 7-8 hours with their masks on all day. And they get through it. And I have to do it. And I explain that to them too. Like, hey, I have to do this. You guys have to do this. We're going to get through it together. And I think if you just kind of have that positive spin, that positive attitude on it, they're going to see that and it'll reflect on that. And if it's the opposite, they probably will struggle with keeping it on, and it'll be a battle.
Yeah. And I think that was very well said. You can kind of make lemonade out of lemons, or you can get sour mouth and be annoyed with it. But yeah, I think probably you're right. More adults probably have more issue with it than actually the kids do.
Yeah.
At least the younger ones. My oldest is funny, and obviously is anecdotally, but she's definitely getting to the tail end of wanting to wear a mask at school, especially because she just got her braces off and she's like, I want to be able to like show my
killer.
Smile.
Yeah.
I gotta wear this mask all the time, but she's doing well with it. So, okay. So we talked a little bit about, I mean, obviously mask and Zoom learning, but what else has COVID done with respect to the teaching aspect of being in the classroom? Obviously we have the obvious stuff of masks and remote learning when that was applicable, but has anything else changed, or is it kind of back to normal?
Ooh, normal. That's a taboo word.
I hate that. Right?
I would say behavior is definitely an issue right now. And it's not on the teacher side. It's not like the teachers aren't handling the behavior. The admin's not handling behavior. We went with a year and a half of kids being at home, not having that structure. And it was different for all of them. It wasn't the same for everyone.
Because everyone's home life is different, right?
Some of them didn't have parents at home. Some of them had older siblings watch them. Some of them might have been home alone. You just don't know what was going on. And so that whole year and a half where there wasn't that structure, they came back to school and they had to figure it all out. And that's hard for them too. That's hard for kids to have to figure that out. And for some kids, it's a little more challenging to know that, hey, we need to sit down, or it's time to focus. Yeah, we are going to learn today. We're going to do math. Some of my kids, they complain. I'm like, hey, we're going to do some math. They're like, math again? I was like, yes, every day. I'm like, yeah, we're doing this daily. But it's getting back into that groove. I think eventually, I hope so. I say eventually, but I hope eventually the kids will kind of get back into that groove that this is life, or this is school. Like, this is what we're going to do, and you're going to be doing it for a while. Behavior is an issue.
Do you mean like discipline?
Discipline, little things. For example, shouting out whenever they want to. And I'm hearing a lot of these things from a lot of my teacher friends, and not even just at my school, just all around, and even trends on social media. Kids just doing whatever they want to do, talking whenever they want to, being disrespectful to their teachers, being disrespectful to their friends, just saying rude things. And I think in that year and a half when they were at home, they were probably more likely to be on social media and to hear things that other people were saying, or thinking like, what was cool, or how can I talk? And that played a big role and a big difference in how they acted at school. And that's a whole conversation for social media. And I'm one to say that social media is a wonderful thing, but can also be a really bad thing at the same time.
Good time to bring it up, but I was actually going to ask you a few questions about it. We did a podcast with Jeremy Adams. I don't know if you know him. He's a high school teacher here in Bakersfield at BHS, and he's also an adjunct professor at Cal State.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Wrote a book, which is actually right here in the studios somewhere. The top one right there, Hollowed Out.
Oh, cool.
And a lot of it is what you're saying, and this has really nothing to do with COVID, but it's what he's kind of seen in the classroom as things have changed over the last 2 years, 5 years, 10 years.
Oh, yes.
It literally goes back to social media, and it goes back to the devices and students' attention span, and students would rather, as in between classes at high school, everyone just like retreats to their phone, and no one's going to like dances and football games on Friday, and just a social interaction is just not there. They live in this like virtual world. And
they do. It's like the metaverse.
Yeah. And so his book Hollowed Out, he's basically saying that we're creating a generation that's going to be, hollowed out, for lack of a better term.
Absolutely, 100%. And I see that. And it is, even before the pandemic, like social media, I've seen more kids and issues going on with things that are going on with their phone, whether it's text messages, social media comments, posts, because a kid could say a name to a kid just face to face, and that kid can deny. Like, there's no proof there. But the moment it's on the phone, you can screenshot anything. And you can't take stuff back in the digital world. We talk about it being the digital footprint. Like, you can't take that stuff back. Once it's out there, and anyone can see that. And that's where more of our problems are coming from with the older kids. Maybe not so much the younger kids, not as many of them have phones. Some of them do.
Right.
But yeah, a lot of issues from that as well.
Yeah. And it's like, and the other thing is not so much the digital footprint, as you said, but people are more willing to say things online behind a screen hidden than they would
It's a lot easier.
Right? Because if you have a problem with someone and it's like, you're going to say something to their face, like, okay, well, there may be some repercussions for that, right?
Yes. Yes.
So I'm going to think about what I say.
Yeah.
Versus, behind the screen, it's just like, whatever. I say it, without really thinking about it and going without my day. But it's like, there's consequences to that
Exactly.
too.
And it's key right there what you said. I think so many kids, they don't think about what they're saying or what they're commenting. I don't think they're thinking about the negative impact that it could potentially have on whoever they're saying it to,
Right.
or they might not really mean it, but it's there. It's out there. All sorts of people have said it, whether it's a rumor, something nasty, something rude, disrespectful, it's out there. And it's that whole think before you speak, think before you type. Like,
We're not doing a good enough job at teaching it.
Yeah.
Not you personally, but parents and our society. We're not.
Absolutely.
Because that's a real big issue. And I don't know if it's something that now that the cat's out of the bag, I don't know if you can put it back in, but something seems to have to be done in short order. Otherwise, I think we're going to end up with a generation of kids who just don't know how to interact socially,
Socialize,
don't know how to, have disagreements, right? I mean, you can have disagreements, you can argue, you can debate, all those things are natural part of communication and conversation, but when you're doing it behind a screen, it really loses its purpose, I think.
yeah, it'd be cool. I don't know if you ever read the book or saw the movie Ready Player One.
I've heard about it.
It's just kind of the whole thing in the future. Everyone's in a not different universe, but they're playing video games, and it's almost like they'd rather live in that other world where it got so bad where everyone's just wanting to rather be in this other world. The very end, obviously it ends on a happy note, but the guy who took over decided, hey, we're going to make it where you can only play this so many days a week. And I thought, wow, what a great thing. What if social media or like all social media outlets were like, hey, 1 day a week.
Oh yeah,
It's
right.
gonna we'll
they're
shut
gonna do
down.
that. We're gonna cut into our profit margins.
Yeah, exactly. It would be horrible for
Yeah.
them, but it's that what if.
Yeah,
What if
right.
like just 1 day a week you took that break, and I think everyone could use that mental break because social media can be a dangerous tool at times.
Or it could be a great tool. Like
It
you
can
said.
be a
I don't
great
wanna
tool. It can
totally
be a
shit
great
on it
tool.
'cause
Yeah,
it really can
No,
be.
social media is wonderful.
Right.
I think it's wonderful, but I think for our younger generation, I don't think they can fully grasp exactly
That's it,
all
right
the
there.
positives
Right.
of social media. They just see the popular, the trends. I just don't think they get it.
No, you're absolutely right. They're not equipped
Yep.
to kind of, I mean, I'm barely equipped. We're still learning how to kind of navigate with it, right? So imagine a younger kid children who aren't fully developed yet mentally. It's a task. And I wonder, you brought it up, and hate to ever bring up China as an example of doing something good because we all know their track record. But interestingly enough, with TikTok or their version of it there,
Yeah.
I was reading that the app shuts down after 10 p.m. You can't access it after 10 p.m.
See, that's nice too.
Right. And so I hate to call China out for doing something
Wow.
good, but
Yeah.
but they're obviously they make the rules, and the Communist Party basically tells you what's going to happen. But so those companies have to abide by it because they're state sponsored anyway. But yeah, so after 10 o'clock, the TikTok shuts down. You can't access it. Can't get on it.
Wow. See, I wish on my phone would just do that sometimes. Like, I'm gonna shut down. I can't do this.
put
I know you
timers on
can.
it,
I
but
don't.
you can take the timers
if
off,
it just
though.
did it on itself, you can.
Right. Yeah.
I'll just give someone my phone, change
Yeah.
the password, let them do it.
There you go. But no, I don't mean to joke about it because it's a serious issue. And when we were kids, I'm a little older than you, but we're close enough. And if somebody said you're a blank, whatever it is, something negative or whatever about me, it stung, but it's like just you and that person. And then, or maybe if there's 2-3 people hanging around, it's like, okay, whatever. And you kind of get over it real quickly. But can you imagine if someone's treating someone that way or being a bully or whatever, and you have to realize like, oh my God, 10,000 people are seeing this.
Exactly.
100,000 people are seeing this.
Exactly. And that feeling you felt with just that one person,
Right.
it's even bigger. It just magnifies because now everyone that you probably know has seen that or has shared it with someone, or it's such a different world than when we grew up.
I don't want to dwell on this too long because we have a lot more stuff to go over. But my daughter goes to Tevis. Can you believe she's in junior high already?
Wow.
So she's a 7th grader, and she came home and she showed us a video of one of her friends text her, and we asked her, and I think she was honest with us. She wasn't there, but there was a fight at school with 2 girls.
Oh, yikes.
And basically people just sat around and recorded it. Literally like got their phones out and just no one broke it up. No one got help, just recording it. And like, that was their first instinct was like, ooh, I got to record this.
Wow.
And I trust my daughter, she's telling the truth, but she said she wasn't there, but someone did text her the video, and I didn't want to look at it because it kind of bothered me, but showed my wife, and she was disturbed by it and was just like, how are these kids what responsibility do they have, if any, if you see a fight and not to break it up or not to get a teacher or a security or somebody and just sit there and record it.
And that's your first response. Like, that's your first.
Oh, this girl's getting punched in the face. Cool, let me record it. It just blew my mind. And and girls too. It's just, I don't know if you see that. You're probably.
I mean, not so much in elementary school.
Not,
not so much. That hasn't happened so much at my school, especially with the younger grades. But yeah, no, I don't. That would be insane.
Yeah, it's depressing.
Wow,
it's sad.
I wonder if anyone ran back and like got help or.
Well, eventually it did. Obviously, it got broken up. But it just shocks me that many kids whose first reaction would be to take out their phone and record this and post it to social media and start texting to their friends. And I mean, poor girl even the girl who won the fight, quote unquote, like, I mean, that's just not cool. These are kids, sending.
And that'll be out there forever.
Yeah. Someone's going to text it. Someone's going to save it. And that's just going to be now part of their life. They have to.
That's sad.
Yeah, it's horrible. Okay, so moving a little bit on from the COVID issues and how it's kind of changed behaviorally with the students that you're seeing, especially maybe the younger first, second, third, fourth graders.
Yeah.
Note here from Olivia, who kind of worked with you to kind of get the topics of this podcast rolling. This is something I don't know what it means, so I'm just going to ask it, and you kind of expand on it if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Social emotional learning, not a term I'm familiar with.
SEL, also known as SEL.
Okay.
Really big in education right now, and probably more important than ever during COVID, and with probably even after COVID. It's really helping all of our kids in different ways socializing again, and they've been away from their peers for quite a while, so it's helping them to be that social person again, helping them deal through emotions, and it's the whole process of it. And for example,
that's what I was going to say. Example,
yeah, no,
I'm
example. So weekly we kind of do an SEL lesson, and it's teaching kids at the beginning of the year. It might teach them how to introduce themselves to someone. Some kids might need that help on how to just simply introduce themselves in a social manner.
Very basic then.
Exactly. Starting out very basic, and eventually you kind of progress and get through other topics. We could talk about using nice words compared to words that hurt our feelings. For example, what I did a few weeks ago, my kids got out their whiteboards, and I said, I want you guys to write down one thing that someone has ever said to you that has really just affected you. And I want you to write it down and put it on your whiteboard. I said, you don't have to show everyone. You can show me if you want to, or you can just keep it to yourself. But I want you to think about that one word. And then we talked about, I let them share, like, how did that word make you feel? And it was really sad because some of these words were like, wow, like I can't believe like someone's ever said that about you. And then they erased that, and they wrote all sorts of just like positive things about themselves. And that was cool because they got to like hear things that people have said about them that they've liked. And then I had them erase that. And I said, why is it that you guys can write so many amazing things about yourself, you still hold on to that negative thing? They all could immediately tell me that sad thing. So we talked about that, and it's learning to kind of deal through emotions and deal through our feelings and growing through that. And then I reminded them, I said, now let's like go back to the list of words that you said, like that's what we should be focusing on. Let's focus on those words, not just that one word. Let's erase that and let go of that. It's really being able to talk to kids about how to appropriately talk to someone, how to appropriately act, how to deal with your emotions when you're feeling sad, when you're feeling happy, when you're feeling left out, when you're feeling overwhelmed. Kids have so many emotions, and day to day, we just expect them to go to school, sit down, do your work,
figure it out. Yeah.
And they could be going through so many other feelings and emotions and issues, and we have to address those. We can't just ignore them.
Is it also stuff like how to interact with adults, how to interact
Absolutely.
with
it might not
authority or teachers or officers, firemen, like that type of...
in third grade, I don't know if I've kind of gone through that, but I can see that definitely. Yeah, as they get older, those are important discussions to have, especially in your middle school, high school kids, because I've seen a lot with just kids who think they can talk back and be rude and disrespectful, and I don't know where it comes from. That's something I'm sure I would hope as they get older, those conversations would be really important. But we do talk a lot about that, especially in my class. I'm big on SEL. I'm big on kindness. So I feel like we always have these conversations in my class, but I know other teachers as well. They're talking to their kids about how they act on the playground, how they treat our yard aides, our custodians, because it's not just their friends, but it's respecting your whole campus.
Right.
And
or community for that matter.
Your community. Exactly. Like the moment you leave your campus, like, how do you reflect on the community, and how do you...
It's almost giving them identity in a way, but it's also like if you said when you leave campus, it's like, okay, you're representing kids your age, right? You're representing your generation, or you're representing Independence Elementary. In your case, you're still teaching Independence, right?
Yeah, I'm still at Independence.
Or if my girls go to McAuliffe, whatever, it's like you're representing McAuliffe now. It's almost giving them like more purpose than just this one thing with social media and things that I've got to is a lot of individualism, right? That's kind of everyone just really cared about themselves only. But what I'm hearing you saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's almost a way to kind of not take away some of that individualism, but also give some more thought to community and your peers and just give them that kind of structure.
Exactly. It's having that pride.
Yes.
That pride when you leave. I know at school specifically, I try to make my students feel, at least like the first 2 or 3 weeks of school, that like we are the King Crew, we are a class, I call us a family unit. Like we are a family. And the moment you leave my classroom and go to the playground, like you represent our family. So you stick up for each other, you help each other out. If someone's doing something, go over and tell them, hey, like, we should not be doing that. Like, this is your family. Let's help each other. Let's support each other. But same when they leave campus too. Like, I would hope that they could take that with them when they leave. And I think it's important to build those relationships and make them feel like they are a part of something
bigger than themselves.
Exactly.
Now, is this a indictment on parenting?
I don't think so. I do this because relationships are important.
What I'm saying is, what I'm hearing you say is, like, this is stuff you're hoping you would teach your kids at home, right?
Oh, you would hope so. There's so much that you would hope you would teach your kids at home, but all families are different.
And that's kind of what I want to get to a little bit, because not to mention Jeremy Adams again, but one of the things we talked about in that episode, which I found was fantastic, being out of school system for so long and not being in it, you don't realize it, but he's described as become such a wraparound service. It's not just school anymore. And I see you smiling. And so he says, look, before we even start education, it's like, we've got to get these kids fed. We've got to make sure their mental health issues are addressed. We've got to make sure that they don't need a counselor, and maybe this social emotional learning stuff that, like, you would hope, or traditionally, I guess, happened at home, right? Where it's a parent's job to make sure you're raising your kids. Is that part of this phenomenon we're seeing, where schools becoming more of a wraparound service, where it's more than just education? It's now like teaching people how to act socially?
I would think so. And I think we have these services readily available to us now. Like, I know there's funds going to school districts and they're able to provide these services, which is amazing. It's nice that we're able to do this for our kids. But yeah, you would think and hope that all these kids would show up each morning fed,
right,
with a hug out the door, with a positive attitude of, hey, today's going to be an amazing day. You've got this.
Homework done.
This is not the case. Right. So many kids are just dealt different cards, and schools, teachers, school districts, we have to realize that and prepare, and just kind of anything you prepare for anything, and you have to be ready for what's going to happen.
Which makes, not that you guys didn't have an
hard.
Right. I was going to say, not like you had an easy job
difficult
before, but now you're adding, I mean, when you're getting credentialed, like, that's not part of the process, is it? Right. Yeah. I mean, this
getting credentialed is already hard. And that was a long time ago for me. I'm hearing from teachers now who are in it, and it's just, they're jumping through so many hoops, and their hoops are on fire, and it's a lot. And so I don't think anything in the credentialing, it's that hands-on experience that you just don't know. When I was in the credential program, I would have never have thought I'd be where I'm at today and doing what I am today. But you learn as you go.
You adapt.
And you adapt, and you have to.
In your personal opinion, obviously you're not speaking on behalf of all teachers or your school even, or your district. In your personal opinion, is that a good thing, or is it just a necessary thing?
I would say it's necessary.
Okay. If you asked my opinion, which you didn't, I would agree with you and say it's necessary, but not ideal, probably. And then again, that just adds another element to your job descriptions. And again, making sure now it's like, if you used to worry about, I want to make sure my teacher is educating my kids, right? And I want to make sure my teacher is teaching them what they need to know to excel in that grade, and then to move on to the next grade and continue with their education. But now it's more than that. It's like, now I want to make sure this teacher that they have creates an environment where, I don't want to say that they're doing our job as a parent, but they're at least contributing to being in, like, the raising of that child. So it becomes all the more important is who we have as teachers, and what their philosophies are, and what they do, and how they act. And so that's a big burden that you guys have to deal with.
It is, but it's, as of right now, I get it. And for me, I just kind of, I'm very much of just the go with the flow. Like, I do it. This is my job. Like, I'm getting paid. Like,
you don't have to do what you do. You could just throw your feet up and say, look, I'm going to teach you reading, writing, arithmetic, whatever, and just, like, not care about them or their well-being. And you could take the easy road, right? I mean,
100%.
And I'm sure some teachers do.
Yeah.
But you chose not to, or you choose not to.
Yeah.
So that isn't a burden. I mean, it doesn't sound like a burden to you because maybe you enjoy it, or maybe you see the societal importance of it. But I hope you realize that you're doing probably more than what's expected or asked of you.
Oh, well, thank you. And I see that in a lot of teachers. Like, I work with some amazing teachers. I've seen it outside of my school. There are so many teachers that will come before their contract time. They stay past their contract time. They are working hours at home. I try to live by the philosophy of not taking work home. I try to leave it in the classroom. And that's good for me, my own mental health. But I see so many teachers who, they're just doing so much work at home, work on the weekends, and putting in crazy amount of time just based on kind of the scenario that we're in right now and what's going on. It is a lot. And teachers are all across the board. We're in different places, doing it differently. But I think what's important, and if I could say this to any teacher out there, is check in with your teachers, check in with the people you work with, ask them how they're doing, ask them what they need, because we can't do it by ourselves. And I didn't have a team of people that constantly checked in with me, and I checked in with them. It wouldn't be easy. I couldn't do this alone. So make sure you're reaching out. And that's for, I say, any job.
Having something that springboard. And,
exactly.
Right, yep. Do you guys have Class Dojo? Is that a district?
I have the Remind app, but I know exactly what you're talking about. Yep, similar.
What do you think about this now, this open line of communication easily available between parent and teacher?
That's so funny you brought that up, because as you were talking earlier, I was thinking, wow, yeah, we're in a different world now too, where I like it, but I also set parameters. Like, I make sure parents know I will get back to you hopefully within a day or two. Like, if it's during the weekend, I'll respond back. And I did at the beginning of the year. I told them, like, hey, I have the Remind app. Sometimes it's easier than sending an email. I can just text you all. And they don't have my phone number, which is the best part. It's all throughout the app.
But you're still getting notifications, right?
I'll get notifications, but it's not as bad. I know some teachers, they use it like religiously, so they probably get all sorts of notifications. I make sure at the beginning of the year I email all my parents, usually like a Friday email as well, just to kind of update them for the next week. Use the Remind app to get them any reminders, but I don't remind them about every little thing. Like, hey, test on this day, this assignment's due today. Like, if I did that, I'd have no time, no free time.
Right. But not only that, but just the access of like, hey, Mr. King, my kid's having a problem with this, or hey, Mr. King, this, or hey, Mr. King, this. Like, eventually you would almost say, like, okay, I guess that's a good thing. But obviously we're in different professions, right? But if I had clients constantly texting me at 7 at night, 8 o'clock when I'm at home, we'd have some problems because that's just not going to work. Now, granted, am I available in an emergency situation? Sure. But let's define emergency, right?
Exactly.
Not everything's an emergency, but it seems like, at least the way I see my kid's school and the way the app works, and I see the messages, because I get notifications too when people are saying things. It's like all this constant like noise going on. It's like, okay, this is not really something that needs to be dealt with right now. So I'm wondering, curious from yours as a teacher, like, I don't know, I'm just going to say annoying.
It can be annoying. I do find it convenient at times. For example, I have like the Apple Watch. So if I get a message from a parent on the Remind app, I can just click this and it'll say like, hey, the student's on the bus. And I just immediately, George, you're on the bus today. And then I won't respond back to the parent right away, but something like that makes it kind of nice. Could it have been an email? Absolutely. I see that. And if I ever did feel like a parent was taking advantage, I would probably email them or conference them and just figure out what's going on. Like, hey, I'm just let you know, like, we're getting a lot of messages. Right. What's going on? How can I help you? But then also know that if I don't respond immediately, I'm either doing something outside of work or it's the weekend, and I'll get back to you hopefully as soon as I can. But please don't be upset if I don't get back to you right away.
How long have you been teaching for?
It's my 11th year.
Okay. So you obviously taught before all this technology was around. So, I mean, I can't remember what I did. What did you do then? Like, you just parent-teacher meetings? They'd call you, set up a meeting when they needed it? I mean,
phone calls I probably use the phone so much more than I do now to just talk to parents, which is always nice. It's nice to talk to parents, but sometimes you don't always have to have a conversation. It can be a quick text. It can be a quick email, which is nice as well. Just sending out flyers, probably killing all sorts of trees years ago compared to what we can do now.
Right.
It's very different. It's also different from when I was in school. I'm trying to look back. My teachers weren't emailing my parents, so it was just a phone call.
But it seemed
or
like
a letter home.
Right. When it needed to be.
Yeah.
Like
it was important if you got a phone
call.
call.
Or a letter like, okay, we need to convey this to you. But now it seems like with technology, sure, it makes things convenient, but it also makes things that aren't really pressing or technically important at this moment all the more important, because it's just the access you have to it.
Yeah. But you know what? On a positive note, it is really fast too. I could get on my Remind app right now and tell all my parents, hey, I need cookies Friday for Valentine's Day. And I would have probably 3 or 4 families message right away, got you covered. It's stuff like that that's kind of quick and nice as well.
Well, it goes back to social media, right? It's a great thing. It's positive, but there's also some negatives. So you got to kind of figure out how to balance that out. Yeah. How many students do you guys have at Independence right now?
Ooh, I think we're close to 800. I think we're right under 800.
And who's the principal?
Ricky McPhee.
Okay.
Fabulous principal.
Okay.
She's doing a great job. Kudos to her, because she started that 1920 year. So
1920?
19 and then 20 was pandemic.
Like
not 1920. No, she's not that. She's old. She is not old. Ricky, I apologize. But she started the
2019,
2020 school year.
Yeah.
So it just hasn't been that word normal, hasn't been that normal school year. If anything, it's really helping build resilience. Like I can't imagine what it's going to look like in a couple of years. If she could do this, again, she can do anything. And same with those teachers who started out like this as well.
I hope you're right. And it's going to be interesting because I talk about this all the time with friends and colleagues and family. One of the things I keep going back to is like when things change, usually it takes a long time to stir the ship, right? You know, it took us a long time to figure out what the hell we were doing with this pandemic. But when things change, usually it doesn't go back the other way. And that's one of the things that could be with anything we're dealing with COVID right now. And so I hope things can kind of navigate back to quote unquote normal, but it seems like once you implement things, it's just hard to take that back.
I hope so. I hope so for education. I hope so for futures teachers, because there's a trend that I'm seeing of they're calling it the teacher exodus.
I think that's every exodus.
Year.
It's not just teaching.
It's also, I've seen what are they calling it? The Great Resignation.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so I've heard social media with a bunch of teachers I follow that not just them, but other like their teacher friends, or they've heard from teachers that this year it's going to be interesting to see what the next school year looks like.
Right.
And I don't know. But
you don't have a crystal ball?
I don't have a crystal ball. I wish.
Damn it. I was going to ask.
But yeah, it'll be interesting to see if that's really a thing, if teachers are really going to leave, or if they are resigning. I mean, I haven't. None of our teachers are resigning mid-year. I've heard other schools, but teach their own. I know there are a bunch of teachers out there who are struggling. They're not paid well in their districts and in their states.
Maybe they don't have support of the families within the classrooms.
Exactly.
No help, no assistance.
Admin could be an admin issue. It could be all sorts of different things. I think supporting your teachers, you have to support your teacher. If you don't feel supported as a teacher, your job's going to be really difficult.
I mean, I'm not just saying this because you're here, but you can't overemphasize the importance of a healthy, well-rounded, positive school environment for your children, because that's where they spend a hell of a lot more time than they do with you.
Absolutely.
I see my weekends.
They're at school more than you probably see them outside of school.
Weekends aside, I barely see them in the morning for some breakfast, right? Then they're gone in school all day, and then they get home, and then I see them for a couple hours before they go to bed, and we do the best we can, but then they're back to school again. And so if you're sending someone to an environment where they're at least not similar to a conducive home environment, then you're facing an uphill battle, which is sad but true. I want to get into TikTok a little bit. We talked a little about China and TikTok, but you do some pretty cool, I guess, stories. What do they call them on TikTok? I only know stories from
just
Instagram.
Videos. I don't know.
Okay. So the last one I saw, which was really funny, was you were telling someone, or a fictional kid named Marcus, to not lean back in his chair. Then the video flips over to you being Marcus, and then you sitting back up, and then as soon as the teacher turns around, you lean back out.
Yeah.
And it ended up with you falling.
Yeah.
Do you do your own stunts? Or
I do my own stunts, and it hurt.
You're getting a little too old to.
I did it twice. I was like, I'll record it one more time just to get a good fall. And I got up. I was like, wow, that hurt. Like,
you're not that young
I'm gonna
anymore,
have a bruise
man.
tomorrow. Yeah. But no, I just try to keep it interesting, keep it fun. Marcus definitely is a fictional character. I do not have a Marcus.
Yeah, I figured you'd
no
be smart enough to do that. Yeah.
But no, just trying to keep it fun on the TikTok, stay relevant to other teachers, make them laugh, because most of the things that I'm posting are things that other teachers are seeing. And I try to keep it light, keep it funny and positive.
Now, I was going to ask you, so who is your audience for that? Is it the teachers? Is it the families of your students, or is it for your students?
I mean, I don't know if it's the families of my students, maybe.
Or is it for you? Is it something that just maybe gives you a way to kind of vent or release some of the things that you're dealing with?
You know what? I really didn't start doing TikTok till back in September. I made a video doing an announcement to Walker Hayes, and it blew up, and I got all sorts of followers. So I thought, I'll just start doing a bunch of teacher content and see what happens. And I've gotten a big following of other teachers. So it's been really cool to see kind of the teacher community on TikTok, how encouraging they are, how supportive. And that's been really good for me, because I've gotten to connect with a lot of different teachers from Instagram, TikTok. We message, we'll share ideas, and it's a great community. But it's also so good to help those teachers. You can just tell some teachers when they're posting just some negative stuff. They're feeling down, they've had a day, they're not feeling supported. And it's nice that when all of us can kind of come together and reach out to them and help them if we need to. But TikTok's been a place for me just to kind of share fun things that are happening in the class, either made up stories or just generic things that we all see. For example, I did one last week about the famous ice pack. Our kids think it is like a miracle, magical ice pack when really it's just a bag of ice that our secretaries and clerks put together.
Right.
And these kids go to ice packs for anything. And I'm probably the worst at it because my kids are like, can I get an ice pack? My mouth hurts. I'm like, what? What do you mean your mouth hurts? You've just been sitting here all day.
Okay, so I'm glad you're talking about what is this? Where is this coming from? My kids at home, like that's all they ask for is ice pack.
Ice pack?
Yes. Like, what is it? Like,
they don't need one.
I know they don't. But what
schools
what started
so
this? Schools?
I don't know why. I don't know when it started, but since I've taught, that's what it is. The freezer up at the office has ice packs that are pre-bagged with ice. So the kids that like fall, scrape their knee, all we can give them is ice.
Well, that makes sense to some extent. Or like I remember when I was in school, like if there was like a fight or somebody and like you got punched in the eye, like you have an ice pack, right? That makes sense.
That makes sense,
right? But it seems like an ice pack is for
Yeah.
everything now.
No, a kid's like, oh, I got scraped with a wood chip. I need an ice pack. Like, no, you need a Band-Aid. Like, that's what a Band-Aid is for. You're bleeding. An ice pack's not going to do that. The best part is, though, they just let the bag melt throughout the day, and they're playing with it, and then they eventually drink it, pretending like they don't think anyone's watching them. Really, everyone is watching them. I had a kid have his bag the next day. He, like, saved it in his desk and got it out and was just like, mesmerized by it. I'm like, it's just water.
It's like a Ziploc bag and melted ice, brother. That's all it is. That's funny. How many followers do you have on TikTok? I don't look on TikTok. So.
I just reached 70,000.
Jiminy Christmas.
This last week. And it's been really cool getting to kind of reach out and connect with all sorts of different people.
That's cool.
Yeah. It's been really cool.
And that, I mean, as much as we want to talk bad about social media, and believe me, there's room to debate the merits of it, stuff like this is really positive. Now you have a outlet for, I guess, teachers all over not just the city or state, but the country, I'm assuming, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, and you know what, going back to something we talked about where I said I wish, like, as much as I love social media, it'd be nice to take a little bit of break. Back in December, don't know why, I got really lucky, and I can share that story, but I got, quote unquote, banned on TikTok. No reason why. Like, I looked into it, filed some reports. I'm like, how did I get banned? Well, a friend of mine reached out and he said, hey, I have a friend who just started working at TikTok. Can I send him your information? Because I posted on social media just to see on Instagram, like, does anyone know like what to do, like how this happens? So he reached out, and that friend eventually messaged me and said, hey, I just started TikTok. How can I help you? Like, what's going on? So I shared, I don't know why I'm banned. Don't know what happened.
Was it something to do with the content?
And that's what I asked. I said, I don't know. I said, my content is all literally uplifting, positive teacher stuff. Like that's all I post. And he was able to look through. He said, send me your stuff. Send me like what you've corresponded with TikTok, and I'll get back to you within 24 hours. He's like, your account should be up and running. No clue why it got banned. Sometimes people get shadow banned or things come up, but you're good. But all that to say, it was kind of nice for that week to like, I wasn't on there. I wasn't scrolling TikTok, because you can just get lost on TikTok for hours just watching videos. And there's some amazing things, silly things, crazy things, but it is nice. I think it's refreshing to just kind of have that break on social media. Yeah.
So my understanding is there's not a group of 100 people sitting there looking at every post and be like, ooh, you're banned. It's an algorithm, I'm assuming, right?
I would think so. And I think so. I made a video, a popular song, and I was just questioning, like, why do kids know this song? Like, it was all like a joke.
Was there lyrics in it that maybe triggered some sort of?
Well, I think so. It's the ABCDFU song, and my thing was I did ABCDEFGH. I can't believe you know this song, and all sorts of I got attacked by like kids and middle schoolers on TikTok. Like, what do you mean? It's a great song. And so I have a feeling they all band together and we're like report. I think that's what it is, but I was still never told what happened. But literally all my stuff is just fun teacher stuff. I try to make uplifting, positive stuff, interesting content for hopefully teachers and people who need a positive message.
Yeah, that's great. I just curious if you've got any insight into that, because we don't have 70,000 followers, but we market the podcast on Instagram and Facebook and so on and so forth, episodes, and we boost posts, and we try to get people, if we really like episodes, to listen to it. And it's weird, like I'm trying to think of the last 2 or 3 that we tried that got promotion denied. One of them was Chief Terry. Okay. Bakersfield Police Chief Terry. We literally were talking about like this is really heavy in the BLM movement, and so we were asking like, hey, what are we doing locally? Like, how are you addressing these issues, like training issues? It was like a totally like benign conversation of like, hey, this thing's out here. What are we doing locally, right? Yeah. And so we wanted to bring that information to the Bakersfield listeners, right? Absolutely. And so we wanted to promote it, and they said promotion denied. Wow. I don't know if it's because he was a police officer or because we talked about BLM in it.
Wow.
And maybe out of context that or not even in context, but just the fact that it said that or something. I don't know if they look at the title and then they have an algorithm that bans things.
Wow.
But we get weird things like that banned all the time. We had Dr. Amin. Do you know Dr. Amin? She's at Southwest Pediatrics. She's a pediatrician.
Okay.
She's really big on social media with, she does these stories every week and asks.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. She's a great doctor. I mean, she's a wonderful person. She's been on the podcast twice, just sweet as can be. And we try to boost her post because we were talking about COVID, but we get weird things like that banned all the time. We had, Dr. Amin. Do you know Dr. Amin? She's at Southwest Pediatrics. She's a pediatrician.
Okay.
She's really big on social media with, she does these stories every week and asks.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
She's a great doctor. I mean, she's a wonderful person. She's been on the podcast twice, just sweet as can be. And we try to boost her post because we were talking about COVID, but not like nothing controversial. We're just like talking about it, trying to get information. And we tried to boost that post and that got denied too. Yeah.
Wow.
I think maybe just because it was mentioning COVID-19 and maybe then I don't know. Maybe they'll have time to check and see the accuracy of what's being discussed. So they just automatically, ban it or something.
Well, it's like when you post anything with COVID, just in the name COVID, that something will pop up at the bottom of the screen, learn more about COVID, or something automatically is added to any of your content.
Which, I mean, I guess I wouldn't know how I would handle that situation on that grand of a scale. I mean, I can't say I have a better idea. I mean, ideally, you would think you would like actually listen to it and understand like, oh, well, obviously this is a benign conversation, nothing controversial here. So, but no one can listen to 10 billion posts or videos that are being uploaded by everyone all over the country or the world for that matter. But it's a discourse that we're right in the middle of right now. I don't want to say I don't like the way it's going, but I don't like the way things are being arbitrarily, I don't want to say censored, but edited for out of context, I guess. And you obviously had that experience with your TikTok page, and you didn't really do anything wrong, right? Or I'm going to say wrong, but you didn't really do anything that would warrant that type of review. But that's, I mean, again, that's for you, that's your outlet, and I think that's something fun. I don't know if are you monetizing that at all? Are you trying to
just a little bit, just tiny bit, like nothing crazy. But I'm doing it because I can, and I'm like, well, if I can have fun with this and make a little money, why not?
Right. But I mean, it's not like, it's not your job.
No, that's not my job.
Like you'll
still find me in the classroom.
Right. If they ban your TikTok, you're still going to be able to eat.
I am good.
Pay your bills. Yeah. But for some people, that is their
life form, and that's
And if something like that happens, it's like, wow, I've lost access to my ability to earn a living.
What now?
Right. So anyway, that's interesting. Okay. What else? You talked a little bit about the new viral video, because the first one we talked about was with the Truth Hurts with
Lizzo.
Gosh dang it, I told you not to tell me her name.
I got too excited.
I was going to remember it. Okay, so I didn't see the second one, so tell me a little bit about what happened there.
So Walker Hayes, I just did another back to school.
Okay. Was it the same with the
announcement?
Okay.
Yeah, and so it was to Fancy Like, the song Fancy Like. Yeah, we fancy like Applebee's on a day night. Yeah, so I did one like, we fancy like back to school. Or back to school. Like, don't ask me if I could sing it now because I don't know if I could. But so I did that, and Walker Hayes saw it. He duetted it on TikTok. Got to meet him at the fair. They had me go. We met backstage at the fair. Got to bring some friends in, and that was way cool. So that was a pretty cool moment. He sent out a video.
A lot of those cool moments.
I do. Yeah. It just, I don't know. I got lucky, but that was way cool, and it was so cool to see. Talking about Walker Hayes, probably the most humble person I've ever met.
Authentic.
Fancy Like went viral on TikTok back in, I believe, May or June of this last year. He did a dance, and that dance went viral on TikTok. Everyone was doing it, and so that brought a lot of attention to that song. Fancy Like was on the charts for weeks, months, surpassed a lot of records, and he was just riding the wave. And so I got to talk to him about that when I met him, and he and his wife were just so grateful. They're like, we're just riding the wave. We're just going with it. And it's one hit after the other, and his singles are coming out, and they're staying on the top 10, and he's doing a great job. And
is he touring?
He is touring. Okay. He's just started touring. I think they finally got a tour bus, which is awesome because he has a big family. I think it's 6 or 7 kids. And so they're all on the tour bus with him. Maybe not 6 or 7. I don't know. I'd have to go back. But he has a big family. Right. Yeah. And that was one thing he was saying. When I was talking to him, like, when we go on tour, like, I'd love to be able to take my family with me because he's a big family guy. And so that's been kind of cool getting to see. I'm sure it won't be all the time, but for right now, getting to see them all travel together and tour. He's just a great guy, and wife was super nice.
That's great.
Yeah.
You don't see that many humble celebrities and down to earth.
And you could tell he appreciated everything that was happening for him. Like, he did not expect any of this to happen, and it did. And he's just going with it and kind of that what next.
Is he older, younger, or
probably in his early 40s?
Okay. And so before this, he was
also a country star, like, but just not where he's at now.
Okay.
Like,
so he definitely moved him up a different
household name.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't follow country, so excuse my ignorance if anyone who likes country is listening. But he definitely went from definitely a musician, but to a superstar. Would that be a fair?
Yeah,
Okay.
I would think so.
Yeah.
Like, he's been a lot of the iHeartRadio shows, making appearances. Like, he has made a name for himself, and he made a name for himself years ago, but now people know him. If you say Fancy Like, or if you ask someone, hey, do you know the Applebee's song? Like, it's that song.
It's that.
And
okay.
Applebee's promotes him. Like,
okay.
He's made it.
He's made it, yeah. So is this something now that you kind of have to do every year? Are we already starting to plan for next year's welcome?
I mean, I don't have to. I usually do a back to school and then a last day of school. So I have to think of the last day of school.
Okay,
and I have no clue what I'm going to do. Yeah.
Okay.
I usually try. It's usually, honestly, like a day or two before. Like, I tell myself I'm going to like plan it out, and then it's like the night or two before I'm like, oh man, I have to do this, and I can write it pretty quickly. I don't know where that comes from, but
well, it sounds like procrastination is working for you. So don't change it. I think the more you probably put time into it, you might not get as much goal out of it as you're getting.
And it makes sense, because that was me in school too. I was always last minute, but if I had to type a paper the night before, it was a really good paper that next morning.
That was me. That was same with law school too. It's like everyone's all prepared and 2 weeks in advance and writing it and re-editing and drafting, and I'm like, all right, I got about 9 hours. Let's get some Starbucks and let's get to town and go. Okay, well, I want to end with a few rapid fire questions, if you don't mind. Gosh, I almost kept you here an hour. I apologize.
Oh, no worries.
Just time flies, doesn't it?
It's all good.
Okay, so what would be your number one piece of advice to parents to deal with schools and teachers in this whole COVID environment as you sit here right now?
Ooh, that's a good one. Family time, or like one night a week, because I know families are so busy today with sports and events and things going on. Pick one night a week, sit down for an hour or two, whether it's a game night, a movie night, maybe not even a movie night. I would say a game night or something where you can just interact with your kids for an hour or two. And while you're playing games, while you're interacting, talk to them about school, talk to them about what they're learning, talk to them about their friendships, ask them and their friends at school, build those conversations. And I think we've kind of lost that a little bit. Some parents still do that, but I think for the most part, we've all gotten so busy that sometimes parents aren't aware about what their kids are doing at school, or who they're hanging out with, or what their interests are. So try to build in some family time throughout the week.
It sounds like some engaging family
Absolutely.
time.
Yeah.
Okay. TikTok or Instagram?
TikTok.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what I like? I love Instagram. I feel like Instagram's fun. I can catch up with all my friends. But TikTok is just so different. I can watch a quick 15-second video, 60-second video. I can also learn so much on TikTok. Like, I could watch a video and learn a recipe within a couple minutes, or how to build something. But you also get sucked into TikTok. So maybe a little bit of back and forth.
Okay. So is Instagram now becoming like what Facebook was now, like older people like us? Or
TikTok's the new Instagram, which was the new Facebook, right. And Twitter's just still surviving somehow.
So that's the chronology of it.
Yeah.
All right. Last one. Red or white wine?
Red wine. It has to be Pinot Noir.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you guys going to start selling these wine glasses?
Oh, we should give you two, because what's the point of giving someone one wine glass? Because usually you're enjoying it with somebody else. So we have to share it. We'll get you another one on the way out. I started with Pinot.
Okay.
I love Pinot. I drank Pinot exclusively, and then all of a sudden I just kind of lost the taste for it, and now I'm just with cabs and red blends and like Shiraz, kind of like big bold wines, but for some reason I've lost the taste for Pinot.
See, I really don't enjoy it. Maybe that'll happen to me, but I was the opposite. Like, I kind of started with cabs and like Merlots. Right. I don't know why Merlot is just, I can't even stand it today. But
most people have done what you've done. I'm backwards. Usually people find themselves to Pinots, especially people I know who are wine connoisseurs. They're like, how do you go away from Pinots? Usually you find yourself to Pinots, but for some reason I just kind of lost the taste of it.
Oh man. Shout out to Tolo with, they have a really good Pinot Noir.
I have heard that. Yeah. Well, Josh, thanks again for coming in.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Hopefully next time we have you in, we'll have some more fun stuff to talk about.
For sure.
And give some good content to our listeners out here in Bakersfield.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
You take care.
Thanks.
This show has been brought to you by the Law Office of Kyle Jones, Troy Burton with the Lynn Company, CPA John Duffield, Scott Hansen Real Estate Lender, Broker and Investor, and Shannon Eckroth with the Eckroth Sales and Marketing Agency, LLC. You've been listening to the Our 2 Cents podcast. Check out the show notes for links and more information about the show. Also visit our website at our2centspodcast.com or catch us on Instagram at Our 2 Cents Podcast. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe